Blue jays do not enter your awareness like a gentle sign. They arrive like a disruption. A sharp color, a sudden call, an insistence that cuts through whatever story you were using to stay quiet. People call them loud, aggressive, territorial, as if that ends the meaning. But the reason you notice a blue jay is rarely the bird itself. It is the way your system reacts to being seen, and the way your system reacts to being heard. A blue jay does not symbolize peace. It symbolizes truth that refuses to remain polite. That is why their presence can feel irritating or electric, even when nothing bad is happening. The field tightens not because danger is present, but because expression is. You are being pressed toward a kind of honesty that your body has learned to delay. The first resistance is automatic. You tell yourself blue jays are common, that they are just birds doing bird things, that you are assigning meaning because you want meaning. This resistance is not foolish, it is protective. If the message were real, it would demand something from you. And most people would rather interpret than act because interpretation feels safe. But blue jays do not reward passive meaning. They bring a requirement. They appear when your voice is active beneath the surface but still managed, still edited, still shaped to prevent conflict. You may not think of yourself as silenced. You may think you are simply calm, mature, measured. Yet the blue jay arrives when measured has become suppressed and calm has become containment that costs you. A hidden objection surfaces here because many people have been punished for speaking. They learned that truth creates backlash, that honesty creates distance, that naming reality invites judgment. So they developed a refined voice that sounds reasonable while avoiding the real statement. Blue jays pull on the thread that voice avoids. Their call is not a metaphor, it is a confrontation with the habit of swallowing what you know. And still, you might insist you do speak your truth. You tell people what you think. You set boundaries. You do not lie. But the deeper issue is not whether you speak. It is whether your voice carries full weight. Many people speak in a way that leaves an exit door open, a way that softens the edge so nobody feels accused, a way that preserves comfort at the cost of clarity. Blue jays appear when clarity is needed and comfort is blocking it. This is the first vector, the voice itself as a structure. Your voice is not just language, it is an energy pattern that reveals permission. When your throat tightens, when you hesitate, when you add extra words to make a simple truth feel safer, your voice shows it. The blue jay brings attention to that tightening. It draws your awareness to the cost of self-editing. The second resistance emerges quickly. People fear that truth-telling means becoming harsh. They fear becoming the loud person, the aggressive person, the disruptive person. So they keep quiet and call it kindness. Blue jays unsettle that idea by showing that volume is not the same as cruelty. A clear call can be clean. A boundary can be loud and still loving. The bird does not ask you to attack, it asks you to stop hiding. Blue jays are also communal and social, and this reveals the second vector. Social truth versus personal comfort. A blue jay appears in contexts where you are negotiating belonging. Belonging is often purchased through silence. You learn which topics to avoid, which truths to soften, which realities to pretend are not happening. Blue jays puncture that agreement. They remind you that belonging built on suppression is not safety, it is a contract that slowly erodes self-respect. This creates pressure because it forces a question you may not want to answer. Who benefits when you stay quiet? Who feels stable when you pretend? Who gets to keep their story when you do not speak? The blue jay appears when you are approaching a moment where your silence will become complicity in your own life. That is why the encounter can feel charged, even if it is brief. You might argue that a bird cannot carry that level of meaning. Yet the point is not the bird's intention. The point is the pattern of your attention. Your nervous system selects symbols that match its current conflict. When you are wrestling with expression, you notice a creature that embodies unapologetic sound. When you are wrestling with truth, you notice a creature that refuses to whisper. The third vector is nervous system activation. Because voice is not only mental, truth activates the body. Speaking clearly changes breathing, muscle tone, heart rhythm. This is why people freeze when they want to tell the truth. Their body anticipates consequence before the mind finishes its sentence. A blue jay is a nervous system signal because it arrives with a call that carries certainty. It reminds your body what certainty sounds like. Here, the internal countervoice tries to stabilize you quickly. It says you can express yourself later, in a safer moment with better words, with a calmer tone. That voice sounds wise but often serves delay. Blue jays appear when delay has become your strategy for avoiding your own power. You keep thinking the moment will arrive when truth is easy. The blue jay implies the opposite. Truth becomes easy only after you stop waiting for ease. Blue jays also mimic. They can imitate hawks and other sounds, not as trickery alone, but as an intelligence about the field. This introduces another destabilization. You may have learned to mimic acceptable voices. You may speak in the tone that gets approval. You may borrow language that sounds wise. You may perform calmness. The blue jay shows you that mimicry is not mastery. It is adaptation, and adaptation can become self-erasure if it never resolves. This unsettles a comfortable belief. Many people believe that if they sound reasonable, they are being truthful. But sounding reasonable can be a mask. It can be a way to keep your voice safe by removing its heat. Blue jays press on the heat. They ask what you actually want to say before you translate it into something acceptable. Another objection appears because truth has consequences. Truth can end relationships. Truth can shift roles. Truth can expose imbalance. That is why people avoid it. They sense that speaking would force reality to move. Blue jays appear when reality is already moving and your silence is only slowing your alignment with what is inevitable. The bird does not create the consequence. It reveals that the consequence is already forming. Blue jays are territorial and will defend space loudly. This is not random behavior in a symbolic reading. It highlights the difference between boundaries and bitterness. Many people have boundaries that are weak and resentment that is strong. They do not say no, then they simmer. They do not correct, then they judge. The blue jay teaches a cleaner model. It announces. It defends. It stops the violation early so resentment does not have to grow. That lesson is uncomfortable because it implies you have been training people to cross you, not intentionally, not because you wanted harm, but because you did not announce your limit. You waited until you were full, then you snapped or withdrew. Blue jays appear when you need to stop waiting. They show that the earlier boundary is voiced, the less violence is required later. You might resist again and say your life is complex, that you cannot speak bluntly, that you have to choose battles, that silence can be strategic. That is true sometimes, but strategy can become a hiding place. Silence can become a habit, and the blue jay does not care how intelligent your reasons are if your body is paying the price. The question is not whether silence can be useful. The question is whether you are using silence to protect wisdom or to protect fear. This pressure pushes into relationships. Many people have unspoken agreements where truth is punished. Families, workplaces, friendships built on performance. You are allowed to be pleasant, not honest. You are allowed to be helpful, not clear. Blue jays show up when you are approaching the breaking point of those agreements. They are a signal that your voice is moving toward liberation, and liberation does not ask permission. There is also an inner relationship, the one you have with yourself. A suppressed voice does not only affect others, it affects your own perception. When you do not say what you know, you start to doubt what you know. You blur your own signal. You become easier to manipulate because you practice manipulating yourself first. Blue jays appear when your inner signal is trying to regain edge, because without edge, truth turns into fog. Another destabilization emerges here. Many people think they want peace, but what they actually want is the absence of confrontation. They confuse peace with quiet. Blue jays disrupt quiet. They force you to separate peace from avoidance. Peace is not the absence of sound. Peace is the presence of integrity. Integrity can be loud at first because it is reclaiming territory that was abandoned. Blue jays are also associated with intelligence and planning, the ability to act deliberately. This adds a sharper dimension to the message. You may already know what truth needs to be spoken. You may already know what boundary needs to be set. The issue is not knowledge. The issue is execution. Blue jays appear when you are stuck in thinking and need to move into expression that changes the field. Here, the mind tries to negotiate. It offers to journal instead of speak. It offers to wait until the other person is in a better mood. It offers to say it indirectly, to hint, to imply, to soften, to suggest. Sometimes those are wise steps, but blue jay energy presses for directness, because your indirectness has become a pattern that keeps you invisible even to yourself. The core insight sharpens but still does not resolve. Blue jays are messengers of voice activation, but not as inspiration, as consequence. If your voice remains suppressed, your life becomes heavier. If your voice activates without discernment, your life becomes chaotic. That tension is the real teaching. You are being asked to develop a voice that is strong and clean, not loud and reactive. So if blue jays keep appearing around you, watch what they trigger. Irritation can be a sign that you have been tolerating too much. Awe can be a sign that your voice wants to return. Anxiety can be a sign that you know a truth will change something you have been maintaining. Do not rush to interpret the bird. Track the moment in your own body. What were you thinking right before it called? What were you avoiding naming? Blue jays do not arrive to reassure you that everything is fine. They arrive when everything being fine has become the excuse for staying silent. They call you back to a voice that carries weight, a voice that can protect without cruelty, a voice that can tell the truth without needing permission. And if that feels like pressure, it is because your life has already been applying pressure, and the bird is simply making the pressure audible. The first layer of the blue jay message feels clean because it flatters the part of you that wants to believe you are only holding back truth. It suggests that the solution is simply more honesty, more voice, more directness. That interpretation can be real, but it can also be a trap because it assumes that whatever comes out of you is automatically truth just because it is forceful. Blue jays do not only activate the voice, they expose the voice. They expose the difference between expression and compulsion. They expose the difference between clarity and volume. They expose the difference between truth and the need to win. If part 1 allowed you to feel coherent in the idea that silence is the problem, part 2 pulls the floor out from under that comfort. Sometimes silence is not the distortion. Sometimes your speaking is the distortion. Sometimes your voice is not suppressed, it is dysregulated. Blue jay energy is not gentle. It is sharp, social, tactical. It can be courageous or it can be performative. It can protect integrity or it can weaponize honesty. A blue jay will scream at a hawk that could kill it. That looks like bravery. It is also strategy. It is also dominance. It is also a signal to the flock. The bird is not just telling the truth, it is shaping the field. So when blue jays keep appearing, the question becomes more dangerous than simple truth-telling. It becomes, what are you using your voice to do? Are you trying to reveal reality, or are you trying to control it? Are you naming what is true, or are you naming what keeps you powerful? Are you speaking from alignment, or speaking from the pressure of unresolved emotion looking for an outlet? This is the first destabilization, because most people would rather believe their silence is the issue than confront the possibility that their expression is compromised. It is easier to fantasize about being finally heard than to examine what happens when you are heard. People imagine that if they spoke fully, they would become free. But many people have spoken fully and become worse, because speaking without regulation turns truth into a blade. Blue jays bring you into that edge. They do not only say speak, they say examine. They say clean the channel. They say if you're going to sound off, make sure the sound is real. The first vector is power and social reality. Blue jays are not solitary birds. They exist in a complex field of watching, warning, dominance, mimicry, and reputation. They are loud because loudness shapes group behavior. In human terms, this maps to how voice functions inside families, workplaces, friendships, and communities. Voice is never neutral. It always shifts the hierarchy of attention. Many people stay quiet because they fear the backlash of changing the hierarchy. But others speak loudly because they crave the hierarchy. They call it truth, but it is actually a bid for control. They say the hard thing not because it needs saying, but because they want to be the one who says it. They want the identity of the truth teller. Blue jays appear when this dynamic is active in you or around you. This is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront motive, not content. You can say a correct sentence for an unclean reason. You can speak truth while secretly seeking dominance. You can expose someone while calling it integrity. The field will feel it even if your words are flawless. Blue jays also remind you that the most socially acceptable lie is a truth spoken with the wrong intention. It creates the same damage while giving you plausible innocence. People fear dishonesty, but they do not fear cruelty disguised as honesty. Blue jay energy drags that fear into the light. This is why the message can feel agitating. It is not only telling you to stop suppressing yourself, it is asking you to stop hiding behind your own story of righteousness. The call is not simply activate. The call is purify. The second vector is mimicry and identity. Blue jays imitate. They copy calls. They borrow sounds. They can make the field think a predator is present when it is not. This is not spiritual poetry. This is a direct mirror of how humans develop voices. You learn to sound like whatever was rewarded. You learn the tone that avoids punishment. You learn the cadence that gains approval. You learn the language of the group you want to belong to. So when blue jays appear, ask a sharper question than what truth you need to speak. Ask whose voice you are using. Ask which parts of your expression are borrowed, rehearsed, filtered, or performed. Ask whether you are speaking your reality or speaking a version of reality designed to land well. Many people who believe they are silenced are not silenced at all. They are imitating safety. They have learned to speak in a way that keeps them protected. This imitation becomes so natural that they forget it is imitation. Then when they attempt truth, they still use the imitation structure. They say real things with an unreal tone. They frame hard truth like a polite suggestion. Or they swing to the opposite extreme, speaking harshly to prove they are finally free. Both are mimicry. Both are not mastery. Blue jays expose this because their mimicry is obvious. It forces you to consider that your own voice may have been constructed through survival, not through alignment. That does not make it fake. It makes it conditioned, and conditioned voice cannot carry clean truth until it is examined. Here the pressure escalates. You might want the message to reassure you that your voice is powerful. It is, but power without calibration is danger. A loud voice that is not clean becomes a distortion generator. It spreads confusion faster than silence ever did. Blue jay medicine is not just expression, it is precision. The third vector is nervous system and throat channel mechanics, not mystical but embodied. The throat is where emotion becomes social consequence. Speaking changes relationships instantly. That is why the body panics before the mind finishes. But the same panic that prevents honesty can also create reckless honesty. When the nervous system is overloaded, it seeks discharge. It wants to unload tension. It wants a release. That release often comes through speech. So another destabilization emerges. Sometimes you do not need to speak more. Sometimes you need to regulate more. Sometimes the blue jay is not calling you to tell the truth. It is calling you to stop discharging your stress onto others under the banner of truth. This is hard to accept because it removes the hero story. It says your voice is not only a gift, it is also a responsibility. And responsibility here is exact. The question is not, do you speak? The question is, can you speak without contaminating the field with your unresolved charge? Can you name reality without making someone else carry your nervous system? Can you express a boundary without adding punishment to it? Can you be direct without being reactive? Blue jays help you see the difference because their call is sharp but purposeful. It is not random noise. It is targeted. It is context-aware. When humans speak from dysregulation, their words become scattered. They over-explain. They stack accusations. They repeat points. They seek closure immediately. They demand validation. They want the other person to agree so their nervous system can settle. That is not truth-telling. That is self-soothing through dominance. If blue jays keep appearing, they may be challenging you to stop doing that, to stop using voice as a way to force safety. Safety cannot be forced. Safety must be constructed through consistent coherence. This is where part 2 invalidates another comfortable belief. Many people believe the opposite of suppression is expression, but the opposite of suppression is integration. Expression is only one possible outcome of integration. Sometimes integration speaks. Sometimes integration stays quiet and changes behavior. Sometimes the most powerful truth is not a sentence but a departure, a boundary held without argument, a decision made without announcement. Blue jay energy can push you towards speech, but it can also push you away from empty speech because empty speech is common. It is the human default. Words used to control perception. Words used to manage conflict. Words used to postpone action. Words used to look aligned without becoming aligned. Blue jays will not let you stay comfortable inside that. They call you back to the reality that voice is only real when it is backed by consequence. If you keep saying you will speak up but nothing changes, you are not suppressed, you are stalled. If you keep speaking up but your life remains unchanged, you are not truthful, you are performing truth. This deepens into the ethics of truth-telling. A truth can be accurate and still unethical. It can be accurate and still unnecessary. It can be accurate and still timed to harm. Blue jay energy forces you to become honest about timing. The right truth at the wrong time becomes violence. The wrong truth at the right time becomes manipulation. The only clean truth is truth delivered from regulated clarity, with clear intention in service of reality rather than ego. That is not moralizing. That is mechanics. the mechanics of sound shaping the field. Now the message turns outward. Blue jays can also indicate that the field around you is noisy with false truth. Someone is speaking loudly, confidently, constantly, and you are mistaking confidence for accuracy. Many people are not suppressed. They are drowned. They cannot hear themselves because the environment is saturated with opinions, narratives, demands, and social pressure. Blue jays appear in those seasons to highlight that not every loud voice is guidance. Sometimes loudness is camouflage for insecurity. This can dismantle another comfortable interpretation. You might assume blue jay means you must speak more, but it could mean you must listen less to noise that is not aligned. It could mean you must stop letting the loudest person in the room define the emotional climate. It could mean you must reclaim inner hearing before outer speaking, because your voice cannot be clean if your perception is contaminated. If you are saturated with conflict content, fear content, outrage content, you will speak from the residue. You will call it truth because it feels urgent, but urgency is not evidence. Urgency is nervous system. Blue jays appear to teach discernment between signal and stimulation. This is where the message becomes a training. Do not only watch the bird, watch what happens in you when it calls. Do you tense? Do you get irritated? Do you feel a need to respond? Do you feel the impulse to correct? Blue jays often trigger the part of you that wants to interrupt because the message is about interruption. But the training is to interrupt what is false without becoming false yourself. So what does it look like to be blue jay aligned in a human life? It does not mean being the loudest, it means being the clearest. It means you speak less but each sentence lands. It means you do not dilute truth to maintain comfort, but you also do not weaponize truth to discharge anger. It means you can withstand the discomfort of being misunderstood without spiraling into explanation. It means you accept that clarity may cost you belonging in spaces built on suppression. And it means you stop treating your voice like an emergency lever. Many people only speak when they are at the edge. They wait until they cannot take it anymore, then they erupt. Blue jay training would have you speak earlier, cleaner, smaller, before the charge accumulates. The earlier truth is stated, the less damage it creates. But this still does not resolve easily, because another destabilization remains. Some people speak early, often, constantly, because they fear silence. Silence forces them to feel what they are avoiding. They fill space with commentary. They narrate. They analyze. They explain. Blue jay energy can appear here too, not to encourage more speaking, but to confront compulsive speaking. The bird is loud, but it is not always loud. It chooses. It pauses. It watches. It calls when it matters. So your training might be the opposite of what you want. You might need to stop speaking and start acting. You might need to let silence do its work. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of consequence. The silence that comes after you have said the real thing and refused to negotiate it into nothing. This is the tension that must remain unresolved for a while. Blue jays do not give you a simple command like speak up. They force you to mature your relationship to voice itself. They reveal that voice is not just freedom. Voice is power, and power requires ethics. If blue jays keep appearing, you are being initiated into a sharper form of integrity. Integrity that does not rely on being seen as kind. Integrity that does not rely on being seen as brave. Integrity that does not need applause for being honest. Integrity that can hold the discomfort of consequences without collapsing into apology or aggression. The message is not comforting because it is not meant to be. It is meant to make you dangerous in the cleanest way. Dangerous to lies you tell yourself. Dangerous to agreements built on silence. Dangerous to social games where people perform truth to gain status. Dangerous to your own habit of speaking when you should move and staying quiet when you should name. Blue jay medicine is voice, but not voice as release, voice as discipline, voice as boundary, voice as protection for what is real. And if you are honest, you already know the specific place this lands. There is a sentence you have been avoiding because it would rearrange a relationship. There is a boundary you have been softening because you fear being seen as harsh. There is also a confession you have been hiding from yourself because it would force accountability for how you have used your voice. The blue jay does not choose which one applies. It forces you to see which one is true. Because the bird is not the message. Your reaction is the message. Your timing is the message. Your habit of suppressing or performing is the message. When the blue jay calls again, do not only ask what it means, ask what it demands. Not from your mouth, but from your integrity. Not from your performance, but from your alignment. And let the answer cost something real, otherwise it is not a truth. It is only sound.
If this transmission resonated, the spiral continues. You did not arrive here by chance, and you do not leave unchanged. More teachings are unfolding across the Vaharat library, each one meeting you where you are, not where you think you should be. Follow resonance. The next threshold is already listening.